It's a very warm welcome back to a second half, the independent off-tube studio commentary from the game at the Emirates. Our referee Tim Robinson just about to get this second half underway. Arsenal leading against Sheffield United by a goal to nil. The goal was scored by Nketiah. It was a really good goal as well after a ball in from Declan Rice. Nketiah used the pace of that ball to then turn past Austin Trusty before firing past Wes Foderingham, and Sheffield United will be frustrated with that goal they conceded because they did have a good game plan. We're into the second half and already there's going to be a bit of a stoppage here as well, as Vinicius Souza just seems to have caught one in the face as a long ball was played towards the edge of the Sheffield United penalty area, but he's back up on his feet and we can play on this. Myself, Paul Szczerbakowicz and Luke Ashurst taking you through the action. Luke, we need to see some sort of plan B from Sheffield United, because if they do the same again in this second half, they're not going to score, are they?
No, they're not going to score. They never really look like scoring in the first half, to be honest. I mean, we mentioned maybe set pieces could cause Arsenal problems, but not only were they very rarely in Arsenal's half to get the set pieces, but even when they did have set pieces, they were woeful. So they are going to need to change it. They just need somebody up there to support Ryan Brewster. He's actually done really well when the ball's been sent long to him, actually being able to either bring it down or flick it on, but there's either nobody running onto it or there's nobody to receive the ball back off of that knockdown. So they just need a little bit more support to Ryan Brewster, but other than that, they've set up defensively very nicely. It took a moment of magic from Eddie Nketiah to get a clear-cut chance on goal against West Foderingham.
Absolutely. No changes in either side, so it is Raya in goal for Arsenal, back four of White, Saliba, Kivior and Zinchenko. Smith Rowe, Rice and Havertz to the three in midfield, with Saka, Martinelli and Nketiah as the attacking three. I'll do the Sheffield United team in just a second, because Arsenal are just developing a bit of an attack here down the left-hand side. It's with Martinelli down the left. He just rolls it towards Oleg Zinchenko. Playing one towards the edge of the box here for Nketiah. Back to goal, where he was holding the ball up. He was actually in an offside position as he was doing so. So the Sheffield United team, Foderingham in goal, a back four of Bogle, Trusty, Robinson and Thomas. The five across the middle are McAtee, Norwood, Ben Slimani, Souza and Hammer, with Ryan Brewster as the front man. A free kick to Sheffield United now at the edge of the room. Just to remind you that in the other game being played in the Premier League right now, it is Bournemouth 1, Burnley 1. In the early game it was Chelsea 0, Brentford 2, and still to come at 5:30, Wolves against Newcastle. The ball now back at the edge of the Arsenal penalty area. Raya just rushed into a pass that was being closed down by McAtee. It's played over now towards the left-hand side. Zinchenko back towards Kivior. A bit more pressing here from Sheffield United, and it almost paid off. McAtee almost dispossessing Declan Rice before he's able to get a pass towards Martinelli. He's been hassled there by Jayden Bogle, who does really well to hold on to the ball, and now Smith Rowe does just as well to roll away from a couple of Sheffield United players before going back towards David Raya. Sheffield United looking to make a substitution very early on, it seems, because it was that Cameron Archer there getting some instructions, and we're barely 3 minutes into the second half.
Yeah, it's a strange one from Paul Heckingbottom. I'm not quite sure why you wouldn't just do that at half time. I mean, obviously he's the manager, he'll know more than I do about whether maybe there's an injury, but it just seems a real strange one for him to not make this change at half time and leave it 3 minutes into the second half. But either way, we said that Ryan Brewster's going to need somebody up front to help him. Unless it's Ryan Brewster who's picked up an injury and he's having to come off, I think it's probably a sensible change.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, whether or not it's a like for like, or he wants to try and have an additional forward, it seems like a little bit early to be making that sort of decision. We'll wait and see what Paul Heckingbottom has in mind. Meantime, Arsenal in possession down the right here, where the ball played in from Bukayo Saka into Nketiah, who is brought down. There will be a free kick to Arsenal. It was Luke Thomas with the challenge. Still a long way out from goal, but certainly close enough that Arsenal can think about a ball into the box. Nketiah just under a little bit of pressure there. But a chance now for Arsenal to get this ball into the penalty area. They've actually taken it short here. Rice takes it too quickly there for the referee Tim Robinson's liking. Wants that free kick to be retaken. This just gives Sheffield United a little bit more time to set themselves for this set piece as well. Nketiah walks away from the free kick. It looks like it's going to be Smith Rowe with the ball in. Doesn't seem to be anybody arriving at the edge of the area. Now Smith Rowe has taken it, trying to pick out Nketiah, and that surprised the Sheffield United defence. There was a player who slipped at the edge of the box as well, and it's out for a corner.
Yeah, and it was a nice play from Arsenal. It's just Sheffield United switched off. They had their warning sign when Rice tried to take it quickly the first time, and they just weren't aware for it. They weren't set up properly along the back line, and they need to, get themselves sorted quicker than what they did do there.
Absolutely. Corner kick now to Arsenal on the right-hand side. Kivior amongst others inside the penalty area. It's going to be an in-swinger from Zinchenko, it looks like, from the left-hand side. No, it's going to be Zinchenko walks away. It's going to be Saka with the ball, and that's heading towards goal, and needs a save from Foderingham. He palms it out towards the edge of the 6-yard box, and there is Eddie Nketiah to slam in from just a couple of yards. I mean, he needed a lot of skill to score the first goal. He just needed to be in the right place at the right time for the second.
Yeah, but take nothing away from the finish. It's a great strike from Eddie Nketiah for his second of the game and Arsenal's second. It's a wonderful ball in from Bukayo Saka on the right-hand side. Foderingham forced into a save, but it palms straight to Eddie Nketiah. There's not much Wes Foderingham can do about the initial stop. I think he's maybe having words with his players more than he is with the referee. We're just going to see a replay here. Saka whips the ball in. It's a devilish ball, and Foderingham just under a fair bit of pressure from Ben White, and Eddie Nketiah thumps it into the roof of the net. There's maybe talk about potentially there being a foul on Wes Foderingham. I think that's probably a long shot from a Sheffield United point of view. Jayden Bogle's really got to do more to get Ben White away from Wes Foderingham, and in the end, wonderful finish from Eddie Nketiah into the roof of the net.
Yeah, he's 6 yards out, but he really has put his foot through that. Nketiah driving that one into the top corner. I agree that Bogle's getting too worried about Ben White and not doing what he's supposed to be doing there on the line, which is actually trying to marshal his own goalkeeper there. And I'm not sure. I mean, waiting for play to restart. Is there going to be a VAR? If it doesn't look like there will be, I think it's all pretty set now. Although certainly that's there is a bit of a look. Yeah, we are going to get a bit of a delay here now. Referee Tim Robinson not allowing play to restart for the time being. So potentially there is going to be a VAR review to see if there is a foul in the build-up to this. So we'll wait and see. I mean, in fact, it's not so much the pushing when the cross comes in. It's the fact that Ben White is pretty much walking into the path of Wes Foderingham. I would argue that Foderingham would never save that anyway, just because of how much power Nketiah has put into that. But if the VAR feels as though the goalkeeper has been restricted there, then potentially the goal might be disallowed. But no, I think it has now been given. It just took a little bit longer to confirm that the goal would stand. So 52 minutes gone. Arsenal 2, Sheffield United 0. Eddie Nketiah on a hat-trick now after his goal in the first and now the goal in the second half. And Sheffield United really with it all to do now.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that Cameron Archer was stripped on and ready to enter the field of play. That substitution hasn't been made yet, and it might never get made now that they're 2 goals down. You know, maybe they just look to try and consolidate themselves at 2-0 and prevent Arsenal from running away with this game.
Well, it's going to be a difficult ask now for Sheffield United. If they can get the next goal in this game to make it 2-1, then things perhaps could get a little bit more interesting. But it's difficult to predict that considering how little attack they've had in the game up to now. Arsenal in possession here with Kivior and Saliba deep inside their own half. Saliba just strolling towards the half. I know he really is strolling. There's no urgency about Arsenal now. There doesn't need to be. As Sheffield United have got to show us a little bit more now from their points of view. From the neutrals' point of view, I hope that Arsenal don't just sort of wind it down now. There's still a long way to go in this game, and they could do with a little bit more entertainment now, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, also as well, it'll probably be a good confidence booster for the likes of Eddie Nketiah and Emile Smith-Rowe and also Kai Havertz as well. If they can continue to play and, build up match fitness in the likes of Emile Smith-Rowe, but also, raise the confidence of the goal tallies as well. So we've just seen Gabriel Martinelli has gone down holding a combination of his ankle and his foot after a challenge from Jayden Bogle. We're just going to see a replay here. I mean, he does kind of stands on the back of it, doesn't he? Really, it's accidental from Jayden Bogle, but it's not a pretty challenge. He just catches him on the heel, really, more than anything. But going back to Arsenal and them in this game, the chance to be able to build up the confidence of the likes of Emile Smith-Rowe, who we've seen has such huge injury problems. If he's able to get on the score sheet or get an assist today, it'll be huge for him and huge for the rest of the season. It means that if you've got players who are on the bench with confidence, you've got more options to bring on and who can impact the game. Gabriel Jesus comes back from injury. He maybe slots straight back into this team, but Eddie Nketiah scored 2 wonderful goals today. It means that that he can come on and make a serious impact. So there's a reason for Arsenal to keep going in this game. I'm not sure whether they will, just to maintain energy. Obviously, they're coming off the back of a trip to Seville in the Champions League, but I don't see any reason why they shouldn't continue and try and score more goals.
Absolutely. They had a good win away in Seville in midweek, winning 2-1. Followed the game at Chelsea last weekend, where they were 2-0 down, but able to get it back to 2-2. And Martinelli needed a long bit of treatment there, but he is back up on his feet now. The Brazilian, he should be able to get back on the field, just waiting for the confirmation from the referee. Meanwhile, Oleg Zinchenko standing over this free kick, leaves it for Kivior, sends a long ball towards the edge of the Sheffield United opponent, just over the head of Eddie Nketiah, and straight through into the arms of Foderingham. Rolls it towards Jack Robinson, over towards the left-hand side. Risky play there from Luke Thomas, and even just 2 passes after they had the ball with their own keeper, Sheffield United lose possession. That's the kind of thing they really do have to avoid. Want to make it even easier for Arsenal. Ben White now back towards William Saliba, being closed down there by Brewster. To the Gunners, able to stay in possession. Saliba now squared to Kivior. And the bench for Arsenal, by the way, it is Trossard, Odegaard, Fabio Vieira, Nelson, Tomiyasu, Jorginho, Mohamed El Neni, Gabriel Magalhaes, and goalkeeper Aaron Ramsdale. So it really is a very, very strong bench for Mikel Arteta today. Brooks, Archer, Traore, One, Larouci, Baldock, Osborne, Fleck, and goalkeeper Davies on the bench for Sheffield United this afternoon. We mentioned that Archer was ready to come on about 5-6 minutes ago. We've still not seen him on the field for the time being, but in the meantime there's going to be a free kick. It's Bogle that's challenged Saka there. So just for an accumulation, Jayden Bogle is probably borderline with a yellow card now, I would say.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's picked up about 4 fouls at this point, and I think the referee said after the second one more and it's a yellow card. He's fouled this player twice since then, and he's still managed to not pick himself up a yellow card. I think he can count himself quite lucky.
Yeah, I'd say so. He's probably, whatever foul he commits next is surely going to have to be a booking, even if it really is a very light touch. Arsenal now pushing forward. Smith Rowe's pass just stopped to the edge of the area by Jack Robinson, who really has been very good for Sheffield United. He's done a couple of very important interceptions there, and eventually the ball going out of play for a throw to Sheffield United down their left-hand side. Just a little moments of ease, just a breather here for Sheffield United after these last 10 minutes. It has been a fairly intense start to this second half. Really been very little to speak of in terms of Sheffield United possession inside Arsenal territory, and now after a throw on they've lost the ball here deep inside their own half. It's back with Zinchenko, who's squared to Rice down the right hand side in towards Bukayo Saka. He's got 2 players in front of him, but he plays that ball across the 6-yard box in the end. It's a fairly tame cross there from Saka into the side netting. Yeah,
good defending from Jack Robinson, who's just having a word with his midfielders, getting, asking for a bit more protection. I know obviously it's probably disheartening being 2 goals down this early on into the second half, but I think he's just asking for a little bit more support. In the opening half hour or so, the midfield shape was really, really good, holding Arsenal out, and it's kind of lost its way a little bit since that first goal went in. And he just needs a bit more help when trying to deal with the people running at him.
Well, Sheffield United had a goal kick, and 3 passes later they've lost the ball, and now Smith Rowe goes to Nketiah, who has just rounded off his hat-trick in absolutely sensational style. Gets the ball about 25 yards out, gets a couple of steps forward, and then sends an absolute beauty into the top corner. That is the best of the lot from Eddie Nketiah, and a hat-trick inside an hour.
I mean, what a way to score a hat-trick from Eddie Nketiah. He raises the match ball in the air. He knows that's his at the end of the game. And what a strike from the Arsenal Academy graduate. We're seeing pictures of Gabriel Jesus. I'm sure he's probably the least delighted of all Arsenal fans in the stadium, because it potentially means that he doesn't get back in the starting lineup after injury. But what a goal from Eddie Nketiah, and I have to say, he has been the shining light for Arsenal today. Alongside Declan Rice, he's been so positive, he's been so forward thinking in terms of getting on the ball and trying to move it forward, and I have to say, it's a brilliant goal. Jack Robinson's got to get closer. He's got to recognise that there's space for him to shoot, and he's got to close it down. But take nothing away from the finish. I mean, no goalkeeper on planet Earth is getting anywhere near that strike. Unbelievable from Eddie Nketiah.
Superb. It takes a touch, turns, takes another touch, and then uses that pace of the ball to really put his foot through it. He's moving that one into the corner. It's superb there from... it really is superb from Eddie Nketiah and Gabriel Jesus. Possibly in the style of Aaron Ramsdale, applauding his teammate who potentially might be keeping him out of the side. We saw that a few weeks ago when Ramsdale first got dropped. He was really sort of quite energetic in his applause for a save that David Raya had made. But yeah, you can't take anything away from Nketiah. That is a superb hat-trick from the young forward. And that's game, set and match as far as this afternoon is concerned. Sheffield United aren't going to come back from this, and we've still got over half an hour to play.
Yeah, I think the key for Sheffield United is going to be to try and keep the score as low as possible. They have made 2 substitutions. Ben Slimani has left the field of play, as has Ryan Brewster. Cameron Archer being one of the players that have come on, and Ben Osborne being another one who has entered the field of play. And you'd probably say a little bit too little too late from Paul Heckingbottom. These substitutions should have been made probably at half-time, never mind after the 3rd goal went in. And I think Sheffield United fans can be quite disappointed with their manager, with the lack of game management, really. They went 1-0 down, but they weren't playing that badly, come out in the second half, they've not even gotten started.
No, they haven't, and it's going to be quite difficult. He's trying to find positives in most of the performances for his side this season. Paul Eckham he couldn't find any, of course, in that 8-0 dropping at home to Newcastle, and it's going to be difficult today as well. Although the opposition, of course, does have something to do with it. There's going to be a booking here as well as a good run down the right-hand side, and that's not going to please Paul Heckingbottom. One of his substitutes, Ben Osborne, he's barely been on the field a minute, and he picks up a yellow card. It's a run from Havertz, just reminding us that he's on the field. That might sound a bit harsh, but he really has been very quiet this afternoon, Kai Havertz, but he was tripped there by Osborne. That's a nailed-on yellow.
I mean, he's just come on as a substitute, and he's not even tried to trace the run of Kai Havertz. He has just brought him down and tried his best to make it look accidental, but he has ran across the back of him. He knows exactly what he's doing, and I just think, I mean, I know you're 3 goals down against the team that finished second last year, but you've got to put in a bit more of a shift than that. It's difficult when you are getting thumped realistically, but you've got to show a little bit more fight. Don't crumble like he did at home against Newcastle.
No, because as I say, there's still plenty of time for this to turn into a complete drubbing for Sheffield United. They really do need to avoid that with these games coming up in the next month, games that are winnable for the Blades if they're going to try and kickstart their campaign in the Premier League to try and make a bit more of a fist of fighting for survival. But it's really difficult. They're chasing shadows right now. Arsenal are just quite happy to move the ball around from left to right, then back to left. It's Martinelli now on that left-hand side, playing one down the channel here for Zinchenko, but this should be easy enough here to cut out. Well, just as I say that, the ball very nearly goes out of play. It has now eventually gone out for a throw, but Sheffield United, Vinicius Souza there, just perhaps relying on the roll of the ball a little bit too much.
Yeah, I've been a little bit disappointed with Vinicius Souza, not just in this game, but the entirety of the season. I think he was signed as a holding midfielder, and he doesn't really possess any sort of match awareness to be able to cover the space as you'd like a holding midfielder to do. I appreciate that in some games he's kind of been left to dry by his other midfield partners who just haven't read the game well enough either as Arsenal come forward.
They do, and Nketiah at the edge of the box, he wanted to roll that in towards Havertz, who was going in on the overlap. It's still kept alive in down the left by Martinelli. His cross goes across the penalty area, and then it's struck on goal by Ben White. It's a great save from Foderingham. Ben White really catches that beautifully, but it's a good save. And Sheffield United just about clear their lines. Arsenal in possession now, back in midfield here with William Saliba. Is it short to Declan Rice? Now Ben White trying to get on the scoring action there, but into Havertz. Back to Declan Rice. Kivior now on the halfway line. Over towards Zinchenko. Martinelli down the left-hand side. He's got Bogle trying to stop his run into the box. Plays it short now to Zinchenko. Back to Martinelli. He is waiting at the edge of the box, but Zinchenko in the end just holding it up and then playing it into Declan Rice. He thought about going for goal, just too many players in front of him. So he goes down the right-hand side now. Havertz back to Rice, in towards Ben White. So no easy channel for Arsenal here. They're having to go back towards the halfway line again. But again, Sheffield United, for all their defensive organisation, all they're doing is stopping Arsenal getting into the box. They can't really dispossess them yet. And now Martinelli down the left-hand side puts a cross in towards the back post. Havertz heads it down, but he headed it down into an area where there was no Arsenal players. And it's Norwood with a partial clearance at least to get the ball away for Sheffield United. Winston Trusty now had a bit more time at the edge of his own box to try and play out from the back. Norwood's long ball now down the right hand side is a good one as well. Archer can at least hold this up, try and wait for a teammate to join him, and that's exactly what he's done, but it actually turns out that he was being fouled. I think Sheffield United would have preferred the advantage there.
Yeah, I'm not really quite sure why the referee hasn't played an advantage. I think it's something that's I've noticed a little bit more this season than in seasons gone by. There's been a lack of the advantage role played, and I think it's prevented a lot of teams from being able to play on the counter-attack, which is obviously frustrating, but as well, I think at least the foul was recognised and given, but I think Sheffield United would have definitely preferred the advantage in that position.
United now with a free kick. If they can get a good ball into the box here, they'll still be happy to at least have this moment in attack. It's Osborne who leaves it here for a ball to be played in by Hammer. That's way too low, and it's easily cleared back into midfield. It drops here to Ben Osborne. And his left-footed ball into the penalty area, easily dealt with by Ben White. A second ball coming back in towards Ben White. He had a little bit of pressure there as well from Cameron Archer, but he's able to get his head to it and just exchanging a pass there with Kai Havertz before thundering this one long down the right-hand side. It's rare that you see an Arsenal player hoof it like that, but I suppose they were under a little bit of pressure. There were no options to play it to a teammate, so he just gets rid of it. 64 minutes gone on official independent off-tube studio commentary. Arsenal 3, Sheffield United 0. All 3 goals for Arsenal scored by Eddie Nketiah. A fantastic performance from the Arsenal striker. Now we're getting a replay of that effort from Ben White, where he really catches that nicely on the volley. But you've got to say, Foderingham makes a very good save.
He does make a very good save, and it's even better save when you realise that Eddie Nketiah stood right in front of him, so he probably won't have seen it until relatively late, but he catches it nicely, does Ben White. As I believe he's getting substituted off now as well. We saw Tomiyasu and Leandro Trossard were ready to come on. You'd assume that Gabriel Martinelli's the other one to leave the field of play, considering how many times he has been booted by Jadon Bogle, as the Japanese international is getting ready to come on in replacement for the former Brighton man, who has done his job today superbly. I mean, he's defended well, but he's also brought the ball forward really nicely, and it is indeed Gabriel Martinelli who is going to leave the field of play as well. So a good chance for both Trossard and Tomiyasu to get some minutes in their legs, potentially to allow them to get moments in the Champions League against some of the weaker sides in Arsenal's group, and allow them to rotate a little bit more than Arteta's maybe used to.
Yes, absolutely. Arsenal's next Champions League game will be at home to Sevilla. That's on the 8th of November. As I say, they've got 2 games to come away from home before that. They're away to West Ham in the Europa League, in the Carabao Cup on Wednesday, and then they're at home. They're away to Newcastle next Saturday in the 5:30 kickoff. Throw on to Arsenal down the right-hand side. The first touch of the ball here for Takehiro Tomiyasu. He's international, just looking for an option here. Can't take too long, of course. He's one of the unfortunate ones who's been booked for taking too long on a yellow card, and I think some statisticians very kindly worked out that since then I think at least 10 players have taken a lot longer than him with a throw-on and have not even been told off by the referee. So it's that lack of consistency with the time management. But Arsenal will be very happy with how the game is going for them here in general. There was a ball potentially there for Cameron Archer, but he was dispossessed at the edge of the box. Now Trossard with his first touch of the ball for Arsenal over the halfway line, being tracked here by Bogle, but he finds a pass to Saka down the right-hand side into the penalty area. Now Saka back to Trossard, wants it on his left foot, then has it on his right, back onto his left, can't quite get a shot away, rolls it back towards Saka, and he goes back to Declan Rice, who's 30 yards out from goal. Now he clips the ball over the top here for Tomiyasu, just about keeps it in play. That's really good work. It looked like it might have been too long for him, and eventually Sheffield United gets at least a brief moment of control on it. Hammer now towards Luke Thomas, whose clearance goes down the touchline. Doesn't actually go out for a throw, but Arsenal have the ball back anyway.
Yeah, it was nice play from Arsenal and from Leandro Trossard. I'm not quite sure why he didn't give the return pass to Bukayo Saka when he was in a bit more space. Instead, opted to drive towards the byline. It eventually reached the Arsenal captain, who just didn't really have anything that he could do other than just knock the ball back to Declan Rice, who tried a lovely ball over the top looking for Tomiyasu, just a little bit too there wasn't quite enough space in behind for him to be able to take that much off it. But it was nice play from Arsenal, and I think as well Declan Rice today, his passing has been excellent. I think he's been the most adventurous with his balls over the top in particular, and I think that's maybe what Arsenal were missing last season, was just somebody who's a little bit more adventurous with his passing from deep, and Declan Rice certainly has done that, as well as being a supreme defensive presence.
Oh, but as I say, you knew what you get with Declan Rice, and potentially being in a team that's more forward-thinking, you could just expand on that. But here come Arsenal. They're expanding another attack here. It's Trossard down the left-hand side, breaking into the box, has it back on his left foot, then he leaves it for Havertz. That's not a good ball from Havertz. He just pinged that with his left foot without really looking to see where his teammates were. And potentially Mikel Arteta will just be telling him the same as he goes to take this throw.
Yeah, I don't really know what Kai Havertz was trying to do there, because he didn't really try to chip it. He didn't play it with much pace. He just kind of just kicked it and tried to use the spin of the ball. It wasn't anywhere near any Arsenal players. It was just, it wasn't brilliant from the German, who has not had his best game on English shores by any means today, which will be disappointing for Mikel Arteta in a game where they've controlled and they've scored 3 goals. Kai Havertz has had no real impact on anything.
You want him to go into the game really in a match like this where the opposition are so beatable and are already 3-0 down. But we're over the 3-quarter mark in this game. It is Arsenal 3, Sheffield United 0. It will be Luke to take us through to full time.
Thank you. As Kivior picks up the ball from William Saliba, then returns the ball back to the Frenchman, and I can see this game becoming a little bit of a procession now that the substitutions have been made. Obviously, Eddie Nketiah has got his hat-trick. He will not be maybe quite as bothered about scoring as many goals now. He has the match ball guaranteed, and Martinelli's gone off someone who normally has a drive to get a goal. You've got Trossard is now on the pitch, but he hasn't really looked as sharp as he normally does, as he now is on the ball, looking to try and get past Jayden Bogle, who is surely going to get yellow carded this time for that foul, as Trossard took the ball round him and he did just flatten him. He looks bewildered as to how he's picked up a yellow card. I can tell you, Jayden, it is because you have fouled that winger on your side about 6 times, whether it be Gabriel Martinelli or Leandro Trossard.
And I mean, that one is a yellow card on its own, I would argue.
Yeah.
Really. Even without the accumulation, he's deliberately grabbed an opponent and not gone for the ball and stopped the opponent getting past him and then running into the box. So that's literally the dictionary definition of a tactical foul there. And the Sheffield United right back will have to be very careful because there's some pace against him on that side, so he doesn't want to be caught out again.
Yeah, I've got sympathy for Jayden Bogle today. He's had a really rough game where he's not had too much support with the overlapping runs of the likes of Zinchenko and Martin. We know how difficult it is. Zinchenko comes in narrow, he makes it difficult, makes it hard for people to decide, do I go with him, do I go with Martinelli? So I think he has eventually been booked as Smith Rowe plays the ball in towards the back post. Good punch away from Foderingham. Only his follower is Zinchenko who goes for goal. I think a foul has been given, and Foderingham is holding onto the back of his head. Looks in a fair bit of discomfort.
Let's have a look from this replay as the ball comes in. Yeah, he's actually just been caught a sort of glancing blow by Declan Rice, although arguably well, there's a bit of an elbow out there from Rice, actually, seeing that second angle there. I don't think there's any intent from Rice. I'm pretty sure there's no intent from Declan Rice, but I think Paul Heckingbottom is a bit worried about his right back Bogle on a yellow card, so he gets booked and immediately changes him.
Yeah, he has brought him off, and I believe it is George Baldock who's come on in replacement, and it was also James McAtee who was leaving the field of play, and it'll be John Fleck to come on. So, I mean, I don't really see now who is going to play on that side in terms of wingers, but either way, I think Sheffield United maybe just trying to cramp up the midfield even more than they were doing so.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's they've pretty much got 4 central midfielders and a winger in Hammer now, haven't they? So if somebody's going to have to be playing out of position, potentially, I think I've seen Osborne play there as a sort of emergency right winger or left winger before, so they might ask him to do that again. It's not really going to make too much of a difference in terms of their attack. It's just how they organise when they're potentially going to be trying to soak up more Arsenal pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. Gustavo Hammer on the ball, looking to try and move it forward, but he loses out, and it'll be an Arsenal throw-in on the right-hand side, which Kai Havertz is over to potentially receive. Tomiyasu chooses not to throw it to the German. I mean, I have noticed as well, it's not quite just Tomiyasu, but it does feel like every single Arsenal player seems to take forever on these throw-ins. Like we've mentioned before, they're not a team that want to give away the ball cheaply, but they do take forever. So Nketiah has brought down Luke Thomas in a challenge. It'll be a free kick for Sheffield United on the left-hand side. It's a bit too eager to win the ball back. Was the English international? It will be a free kick for the Blazers. We're going to see another substitution now. We're going to see Bukayo Saka, the captain of the day, bearing in mind Martin Ødegaard was given a rest, and it'll be Reece Nelson to come on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side I should say, and Emile Smith-Rowe is going to leave the field of play as well. So Saka and Smith-Rowe leaving together, and it will be, I will wait for confirmation as Eddie Nketiah picks up the captain's armband off of Bukayo Saka. I'll wait to find out who Smith-Rowe has been replaced by, but did pick up an assist for Nketiah's 3rd goal of the game, so a good, nice confidence boost for Smith-Rowe. And put it this way, of the 3 midfielders, you'd probably say Declan Rice has been the best, but Smith-Rowe, second best, I think, comfortably away from Kai Havertz.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's always a worry when you play in central midfield and you're not seen very much. I'd always think that's a good indicator of a central midfielder having a particularly bad game, where the ball seems to bypass him. And we did see, looks like it's Fabio Vieira going to come on here for Kai Havertz.
Yeah, it is as well. So it would be a good run out for the Portuguese youngster just to get some more minutes in the Premier League, as Reece Nelson as well, having, I believe, signed a new contract in the summer, gets some more minutes as well in this Arsenal side. I mentioned earlier, whether Arsenal are going to keep going or not, it's going to be important to get players minutes and build up players' confidence, so that when they do decide to rest players like they did today with Martin Ødegaard, players are ready to come on and make an impact, as they have done today through Eddie Nketiah and Emile Smith-Rowe. Kai Havertz retains the ball off of a loose touch from a Sheffield United player, and it's Declan Rice who receives it. He'll go back to Jakub Kiwior. Now William Saliba on the ball, finds Declan Rice, who's dropped deep to pick it up. He'll then spread the ball over the top, looking on the right-hand side for Reece Nelson. It's a lovely ball. It's a pretty nice touch as well from Reece Nelson to try and get away from Luke Thomas. He's now got it in the corner up against the former Leicester man, just trying to move him out the way, puts it through his legs, but Luke Thomas recovers well and wins a free kick off of the Arsenal substitute. It was always going to be difficult for Nelson to get out of there without giving away some sort of free kick, and in the end, Thomas does well to retain possession for Sheffield United.
He does, and at least he wins his side, wins the ball back for his side, and drawing that free kick there from Reece Nelson. Yeah, as I say, we hopefully from the neutrals' point of view, we're going to see a bit more of a. Just the Arsenal maintain this pressure and this pace, because certainly from Sheffield United's point of view, they really haven't been able to offer much in this second half. If they were able to get a bit more possession, we might be able to see something, but it's just difficult to predict right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just under 75 minutes on the clock, independent off-tube studio commentary. It's 1-1 currently in the other 3 o'clock game in the Premier League between Bournemouth and Burnley. Burnley took the lead earlier on in the game before Bournemouth equalised shortly after. Zinchenko looking to try and get away from Ben Osborne. It's forced back to Jakub Kiwior, then back to Alexander Zinchenko, goes inside to the substitute Trossard, does well to skip away from a couple of players, retains possession, and then goes back to facing the Sheffield United goal. Eddie Nketiah made the run, but he just goes back to Zinchenko to retain possession, then goes square inside the centre circle to William Saliba, then back to Kai Havertz, Declan Rice, Saliba, now Jakub Kiwior still inside the Arsenal half. He spreads it onto the left hand side for Zinchenko, brings it down with his chest, looking to try and bring it past the 2 players on his side, gets away from Osborne, then tries to skip away from Baldock, gets the return pass from Zinchenko, still the Belgian now towards the byline, chips it in towards the back post. Havertz was up, it's cleared away only as far as Tomiyasu, who went for goal but dragged it quite far wide of Wes Foderingham's far post, and it will be a goal kick for Sheffield United. But it was some nice play down the left hand side from Trossard.
No, it was, and he needs a good performance as well, because of course there's so much competition for those attacking places in the Arsenal starting 11. Say it was inviting for Tomiyasu. They're 3-0 up with 14 minutes to go, so I have no issue with the right back having an effort from that sort of distance. It's just he didn't really catch it right.
No, he didn't. As play continues from the goal kick, Vinny Sousa's won the ball back off of Kai Havertz, just trying to get away from Fabio Vieira as the tall Brazilian, and eventually does so, goes all the way back to Austin Trusty though inside the penalty area. There's been a goal at the Vitality Stadium to talk to you about. It is Bournemouth who have taken the lead in that game. Philip Billing has scored the Cherries' second goal of the game, and they currently lead by 2-1 against Burnley. Arsenal leading in this game by 3-0. Paul Heckingbottom's side started off quite well in the opening 20 minutes or so, but just before a half-hour mark, Eddie Nketiah scored his first of 3, and Arsenal haven't looked back since. It's now Kai Havertz on the ball on the right-hand side, looking to try and bring it forward. Lays it off to Reece Nelson on the right-hand side. He then goes back to Tomiyasu inside the centre circle now for William Saliba as he brings it into the Sheffield United half once again, just looking for some movement in front of him, but goes square to the pole. Jakub Kiwior tries to play it in behind, looking for Zinchenko, but it'll just bounce straight through into the hands of Wes Foderingham, and Sheffield United can reshape once again. We'll just have a pause as we're seeing picture of Kiwior. A little bit disappointed with that pass, looking for Zinchenko. I think he slotted in really quite well up with William Saliba. I mean, he's obviously not had to do too much. Sheffield United not had the ball in that half that much, but in terms of being comfortable on the ball, and he's been quite good, hasn't he, Jakub Kiwior?
He has, yeah. He is a decent ball-playing defender, which is what you need to be if you're going to be in a Mikel Arteta side, of course. And as you say, he's probably had more opportunity to show off his ball-playing skills today than normally he'd be expected to. He probably have to do a lot more work in defence up against most of the sides in the Premier League, but it's a good sort of sighter for him as well. He's not the natural sort of automatic first 11 pick for Arsenal, but he's not far off, I would say.
Yeah, it's Sheffield United under a bit of pressure here from Arsenal. They've played out of it nicely. Gustavo Hammer just putting it under pressure from Tomiyasu, but they've lost the ball now. Declan Rice driving towards the penalty area, gets inside, but it's a good challenge from Vinny Sousa. His opposite number, and it's cleared away. Gustavo Hammer brings it down, looking to try and move towards the Arsenal goal, but he's forced back all the way to 30 yards away from his own goal. He then lofts one over the top looking for Cameron Archer. That's a lovely looking ball, but it hangs in the air a little bit too long, and William Saliba can deal with it. 78 minutes on the clock in this game. Sheffield United, I think it's almost kind of like they've kind of given up along with Arsenal. They're kind of just gentleman's agreement to just continue playing, but not really try and kill this game off in a catastrophic way from a Sheffield United point of view.
Well, I think Sheffield United, if Arsenal wanted to, if they needed another 3 goals here for some goal difference reason, then I think they would obviously be doing a lot more than what they are now. But it just seems as though they have sort of taken the foot off the gas a little bit. But now Sheffield United with a chance to get forward. Yeah,
coming forward here with John Fleck, the substitute, tries to play it in to centrally towards Gustavo Hammer. He goes down looking for a free kick. I don't think he's ever going to win that appeal against the referee. And now Arsenal look to bring it forward with Trossard up against George Bulldog. So he'll go in as the Belgian Belgian substitute, looking for a bit of space in the middle, tries to find switch play to Nketiah. He goes down inside the penalty area, and the referee, I believe, has he blown for a penalty or has he blown for a goal kick? It looks like he's blown for a goal kick. It was difficult to tell, obviously, when he points in that direction. We're just going to see a replay here. I'm sure VAR are going to check this. I mean, Trusty doesn't get anywhere near the ball, and he does catch Eddie Nketiah. I think it might be worth looking. I think what will probably stop Arsenal from winning that penalty is the fact that he does just jump in the air there.
Yes, just trying to add a little bit more from himself there, wasn't he, Eddie Nketiah? That's probably what's convinced the referee, at least live, that it wasn't a penalty. I mean, and has Foderingham been allowed to restart play? He hasn't, so they are going to look at this. And as soon as they start looking at this, I think it's going to, with every replay, this is going to look worse and worse here for Aaron Trusty.
Yeah, it's not a brilliant challenge from him. I don't know whether the VAR check has ended. Again, if it wasn't going to get given, it is because Eddie Nketiah has thrown himself up in the air, and I believe it hasn't been given. VAR check is over, and I don't think there can be too many complaints from Arsenal, nor could there have been too many complaints if Sheffield United would have it given against them. It's one of those where it's like 6 of one, half dozen of the other. If it goes either way, then it is what it is. But when you're 3 goals down, the last thing you want to be doing is giving away things like penalties, because it just makes the day even worse. As Luke Thomas tries to play the ball over the top, looking for Cameron Archer, but it's easily dealt with by William Saliba. I think some Sheffield United players have actually, looked pretty good in this game. I think Luke Thomas at fullback has actually looked really quite decent. I think the centre-back partnership, despite conceding 3 goals, has actually done quite well. And I think Wes Foderingham can't be held responsible for any of the 3 goals. And he's made some pretty decent saves as well. So there are some Sheffield United players who can come out of this and go with their heads held high. But overall, from a team's perspective, it's obviously not been good enough.
It's not been a good day as a team for Sheffield United, for sure. But certainly Robinson's had a good game. Thomas has had a good game. Trusty has had a good game. Bogle, I thought, for all his fouls and things, actually had a very involved game on that right-hand side. Of course, having to deal with Martinelli for most of the game wasn't an easy task. But Arsenal have won themselves a free kick now. Jack Robinson with the challenge, giving the free kick away. To say, it's always important for teams like Sheffield United that they don't dwell on this match too much, and they really go all out to try and just have those extra levels against teams that are more beatable down the bottom of the league.
Yeah, I think you can excuse losing against a team like Arsenal when you're sat rock bottom on 1 point. It's just if it becomes embarrassing like it did against Newcastle, that it becomes worrying from a team point of view. But I think 3-0 it's obviously not what you want. You never want to lose a game by 3-0, but I think it's more acceptable than obviously the 8-goal loss, the 8-0 loss at home against Newcastle. We're just seeing the stats pop up. 72% possession in this second half for Arsenal. And to be honest with you, I'm really quite surprised it's not been more. I don't seem to remember Sheffield United having a spell of possession in the Arsenal half in the slightest, as the ball is played along looking for Nketiah. It's a nice touch with the outside of the boot, just trying to get away from Austin Trusty. The Americans followed him well onto the half rail, and it forces the pass back, but the referee has given a free kick against the American. It will be Arsenal ball on the halfway line.
It will be. I mean, that stat there about just 4 efforts on goal from Arsenal in the second half, but of course 2 of them have found the back of the net, and Sheffield United are going to be making their 5th and final change. It's going to be Harmer go off to be replaced by One.
Yeah, it's another substitution for Sheffield United. I think with the performance of Gustavo Hammer, I don't think he can be 2 best players. We'll continue to go back to that shot he had from the halfway line when he had overlapping runners, but I just think in general, when he's been on the ball, he was signed to because he's a quality player on the ball, and I think at times today he's not shown that, has he?
No, he hasn't. He would have been Sheffield United's potentially their brightest player. Potentially, if they were going to do something in this game, get something out of nothing, it would have had him involved either in the build-up or potentially scoring the goal himself. But he's just not really been able to get into the game at all. And here come Arsenal now with Trossard.
Trossard tries to play it into the middle, looking for Fabio Vieira. I think he thought Trossard was going to make another run on the left-hand side, but instead he discontinued his run, and Vieira gave the ball away. Although Sheffield United have given the ball away, and Vieira's gone down, and he's got his hand up in the air. He looks in a fair bit of discomfort. I don't know whether it was in the box or not, so whether VAR can have a check. I'm very surprised a foul wasn't given either way, but play continues with Arsenal. Vieira is still on the floor in a fair bit of discomfort. I think the ball's going to get put out of play by Leandro Trossard. I mean, Ollie Norwood, it says it's not a foul on our pictures. I mean, we'll wait to see. Vieira looks in an awful lot of pain, as we're going to see a replay here. I mean, they're their own. They build a rod for their own back here, Sheffield United. They just don't get it clear properly at all. We're going to see a replay. Is it inside the box? Is it outside the box? It doesn't look a good challenge from Ollie Norwood. Either way, Oh, he studs up on the ankle. I mean, penalty or not, there may be a VAR check for a red card. He's pointing to the ball. I mean, where the ball is, I have no idea, because he just kicks his ankle.
He doesn't get the ball at all.
No.
At all. He was always behind Fabio Vieira, who had the ball in front of him, so there was no way he could have got a touch on the ball there. And potentially checking if the foul was in the box, and whether it was or it wasn't, as you say. I mean, that's a freeze frame of the ankle of the boot right on the back of the ankle. There's potentially a red card there. I mean,
we know that slow motion and freeze frames make challenges look worse, but even at full speed, the right angle showed that's a nasty challenge from Ollie Norwood. He does not need to go in studs up to win that ball. I don't think it should be a question whether this is a penalty or not. It's inside the box, it's a foul. The question should be whether the Sheffield United captain should be sent off. It's a woeful challenge from Ollie Norwood. It really is. And I think he's in serious trouble here. I think
he is. Yeah,
maybe the referee's going to go have a look at the monitor. I don't know how VAR works in the sense of whether he can only give a penalty in this situation, but surely when he has another look at this and sees the angle of his studs, that's the biggest thing, is the way his studs are up. This should be given as a red card. Now, this I don't like. We're seeing pictures of, they've got it as a picture. That I don't like, because it's obviously going to make it look worse. But if they show him it in full speed, he'll see, the referee, that it's a really bad challenge. I mean, he's looking now probably just to check whether it is a penalty. I really don't see how this doesn't get given as a red card either.
I think you're right. I think it's got to be both here. I think obviously if it's going to be a penalty, then he's got to consider the red card as well, because it is a bad challenge from Oliver Norwood. He's gone in onto the ankle of Fabio Vieira without getting anywhere near the ball, and it's right on the edge of the box as well. I mean, you would argue that Fabio Vieira and the ball are both in the penalty area when Norwood makes that challenge.
Yeah, I'm grimacing just looking at it, because I know how painful it'll be for Fabio Vieira, and he'll be really disappointed that he's come on and just potentially we'll hope that he's not seriously injured from that challenge. I'm not really quite sure why this is taking so long. It's taking
far too long. I mean, as I say, I have to stop myself sometimes from ranting as to how long English VAR takes compared to UEFA or to other European leagues. But after about 5 or 6 views of the same replay, the referee is doing the little box, and we are going to get a penalty. Now, is it going to be a red card as well, Luke?
Well, there has been a penalty given. I mean, surely there's a yellow card, if not a red card. He's reaching to his pocket. It's only a yellow card to be given here to Ollie Norwood, and I think he can count himself very, very lucky, because I think that is a disgraceful challenge.
I think
it's red. I think Ollie Norwood can stand there and say, I got the ball as much as you want. He factually didn't. If he thinks that ankle... the ankle of Fabio Vieira is the ball. It is horrific from Ollie Norwood, because he goes in with his studs up. I could understand, if it's bounced off the ball, whatever, but you can see he's gone in with his studs angled up. Either way, Fabio Vieira is good to continue. He's not injured, which is always brilliant to see, and he's going to take the penalty. And I think, do you know what? If he scores it, it'll be fully deserved for him, because he's been... It's a terrible challenge he's just had to suffer, and if he scores, it'll be a bit of redemption, because he'll be in some serious discomfort when he wakes up tomorrow.
Yeah, he will be, but this is a great opportunity for him, as you said, off the bench, and now able to get on the score sheet. He's had some very good performances for Arsenal, albeit not too many of them. He's still been frozen out the team slightly, of course, with the amount of quality ahead of him. But the young Portuguese now with a great chance.
Yeah, stepping up for the penalty. He'll strike it with his left foot. The referee just signalling people need to stay outside the penalty area. Fabio Vieira steps up to take the penalty, puts it down the middle. Brilliant penalty by the young Portugueseman. He grabs the ball, he runs off and puts it under his shirt, goes off to celebrate. He looks absolutely delighted, as he should be. It's a good penalty, well deserved after suffering from that challenge. And Arsenal now 4 goals to the good, and we will have a fair bit of added on time after that VAR check.
Yes, we will, yeah. Unfortunately for Sheffield United's point of view, they probably wouldn't mind if the referee ended it after a couple of minutes of injury time, but we're probably looking at something like 5 or 6 with the earlier injury to Martinelli as well. Potentially maybe even longer than that. But Foderingham goes to his right. Fabio Vieira goes just slightly left of centre, but it's a very confident left-footed strike.
Yeah, I think he sees that Foderingham is going to dive to the goalkeeper's right and knows straight away, I don't really need to place it. I can just put it far enough away from him so that he gets nowhere near it. And indeed he does. It's a good penalty from Fabio Vieira, and Arsenal now very much cruising in this game. If they weren't already, they now are. And they're probably... if Nketiah hadn't scored a hat-trick, I was going to say Declan Rice would be my man of the match, but Nketiah did score a hat-trick, and we're now going to see the introduction of Egyptian international Mohamed El Neni, who's had his injury troubles in recent times, but he's now going to get a run out in this game as well. So Arsenal taking advantage of being able to make as many substitutions and getting as many players as many minutes as possible in what is a very crowded season with the amount of games they have to play with Champions League football.
Yes, absolutely. They've got to try and preserve their players. They've got to try and, as I say, I expect wholesale changes for the game away to West Ham in the Carabao Cup in midweek as well. But we've kicked off now, and Zinchenko getting his goalkeeper involved with a bit of a volley back to him, and that puts Arsenal under pressure. They lose the ball here.
Yeah, Trossard tried to flick it back in towards his own penalty area. It was a strange decision from the Belgian, but in the end he does well just to kick it against Ben Osborne, and it will be a goal kick for Arsenal. I mean, Trossard makes amends from what was a really quite strange mistake. It was strange from Zinchenko as well to volley it back to David Raya, who's asking an awful lot of his goalkeeper to deal with a bouncing ball towards him. But either way, it's dealt with, and we can see pictures of the away end. It is emptying quickly. It's a long trip back up to Sheffield from North London, and you can understand why it's been a disappointing performance. But also, the home end is emptying rather quickly as well, which, when your team is 4-0 up, it's a little bit of a strange one to me.
It is. I mean, having been at the Emirates, I know that Arsenal Station, just a couple of minutes walk away from the ground, gets absolutely congested to the point where they actually have to close it sometimes after a match day. So maybe some fans trying to get a bit of a head start. But we're going to get 2/3 of an extra time period here now, Luke, with 10 minutes put up on the board.
Yeah, 10 minutes of added on time at the end of this game. And if you're a Sheffield United fan, that is the last thing you want to see, because
there's a few of them making their way to the exits as well.
It's been a poor showing from Sheffield United, especially in the second half. I mean, the first goal from Nketiah really set Arsenal on their way, and they've not looked good at all, Sheffield United, once that first goal went in. So we are going to be subject to another 10 minutes of probably walking speed football as Norwood spreads onto the left hand side for Robinson. He'll go inside to Vinny Souza, then back to Robinson, square to Oliver Norwood, the man who gave away the penalty for the fourth goal. Plays it, looking in behind for Baldock, but it's blocked by Osborne, his own player. But he then retains possession and goes back to Norwood, quickly to Baldock, the substitute, just trying to keep hold of the ball, does well, trying to skip away, looking for a free kick. I'm not quite sure if the referee's given one or not. It looks like he has, and it will be a free kick for Sheffield United on the edge of the penalty area. And I think this is potentially the furthest forward they've been in the entirety of the second half, and it's taken the 91st minute for them to get there.
It has, yeah, and the scoreline being what it is, Arsenal obviously will have dropped off their levels just slightly as well, so that makes it a little bit easier. It was a very strange attempted challenge there from Zinchenko to try and stop the man anyway, so the free kick very much deserved here. And a chance now to whip it in from the right-hand side. It is Osborne and Norwood standing over this one.
Yeah, Norwood just pointed to himself. It's going to be him that takes the free kick. He raises his left arm as Osborne's just still stood there with him. Referee spraying the line for the wall. I mean, it's a very long line as to where the wall's going to go. It's Osborne standing over it. He leaves it for Norwood, as we thought he would. He dinks it towards the back post. There's men there waiting, and nobody really attacks it. Robinson was the one closest to it from a Sheffield United point of view, but it almost looked like he ducked underneath it. Souza now with the ball. Goes inside to Osborne, just trying to keep a hold of possession. Goes back to Baldock. Then further back to his captain Norwood. He spreads it onto the left hand side for Souza. Lovely touch on the thigh to bring it down inside the penalty area. Skips past one, but it's a poor touch, and it's put out of play for a corner kick for Sheffield United. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is the first corner Sheffield United have had in the entire game. It's in the 92nd minute.
Yeah, it's taken them a long time. We'll just confirm that with our stats here. I mean, it has been a very long afternoon for Sheffield United, and yes, after 6 corner kicks, this is their first. 5 for Arsenal. Sheffield United now finally getting a corner kick, and here it comes.
Ball whipped in towards the back post, straight into the hands of David Raya. And even if they had more corner kicks in this game, if they were of the same quality as that, it would have made absolutely no difference to the scoreline whatsoever. David Raya, I don't think has touched the ball more than twice in this second half, one of which was when Zinchenko awkwardly volleyed the ball back to him. The next one was when he caught the corner.
Yes, he's just been a spectator on the field almost, hasn't he, Raya, watching from a distance as his side cruised past Sheffield United. Now, in the meantime, there's probably going to be a lot of added time in the other game between Bournemouth and Burnley, because there's been a VAR check there for some time now between Bournemouth and Burnley. It was potentially for a second Burnley goal to make it 2-2, but as it stands, they're potentially still checking to see if there was an offside on there. It may well be that check is now complete, but as it stands, Bournemouth are 2-1 up against Burnley. And they're into the 5th minute of injury time then.
Play continues in this game as John Fleck looks to try to bring the ball forward, try to find Ben Osborne in the middle of the park, but it's dealt with well, and Reece Nelson will try to bring it forward between him and Mohamed El Neni. The Egyptian goes square to Jakub Kivior, then onto the left-hand side for Leandro Trossard as he looks to drive forward and try and make another move on left-hand side against George Baldock. He's got Cameron Archer back there with him, still going is Trossard, trying to just skip away from the substitute. In the end, he's forced back to Vieira. Inside to El Neni. He's got a bit of space in front of him, which is closed down by Ben Osborne. Now it is Takahiro Tomiyasu. Goes to Kivior, then onto the left-hand side for Trossard. Tries to play a nice ball in behind looking for Vieira, but it's well read by Souza. Some nice footwork allows him to get out of a tricky situation. Finds Cameron Archer, then the ball played over the top, looking to return the ball to the former Aston Villa man, but it goes out for a throw-in for Sheffield United, and we can confirm that Burnley goal, they thought had equalised at the Vitality Stadium late on, has been ruled out for offside, so it's still Bournemouth 2, Burnley 1. In this game, it's Arsenal 4, Sheffield United 0. Eddie Nketiah with a hat-trick and a Fabio Vieira penalty. The goal scorers in this game as Trusty goes all the way back to Foderingham inside the penalty area. He then spreads the ball onto the left-hand side looking for Luke Thomas, but it's dealt with well by Arsenal as Norwood battling away with Kai Havertz. Those two still with the ball. Havertz just about plays the ball into Eddie Nketiah in the penalty area. Good block by Vinny Souza. It'll be a corner kick for Arsenal on the right hand side. Lovely run by Nketiah. Well played by Kai Havertz to battle away with Ollie Norwood and find the ball through to the Arsenal goal scorer, and it's a great block in the end by the Brazilian.
Yeah, he's done well there, Vinny Souza. He's done well to stop that run from Nketiah, who's already had a fantastic afternoon today and is just trying to make it even better with the potential 4th goal. And Arsenal now with this corner kick, and it's a bit of a response from Arsenal after a good few minutes of possession for Sheffield United.
Yeah, not that they needed a huge one, being 4-0 up. Nonetheless, Fabio Vieira stands over this corner kick, raises his arm. It'll be an in-swinging corner from the right-hand side. The left-footed ball from Fabio Vieira. It finds its way somehow into the 6-yard box, and it's put into the back of the net. And it's Takahiro Tomiyasu who scores Arsenal's 5th. And to compound the misery of the very few Sheffield United fans left in the Emirates Stadium, the Japanese international has found the 5th, and it is well and truly a drubbing for Sheffield United in this game.
It is a drubbing, and it's a sad state for Sheffield United here today, really, because they've just shown time and time again they're just not really able to cope with the pressure of Arsenal, and absolute delight there on that Arsenal bench. It's been a very good afternoon's work for them. 5 goals scored, a clean sheet, and everyone looking very, very good.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting it's likely after this game, but surely another drubbing like this. Obviously, they had the 8-0 loss at home against Newcastle, and now a 5-0 loss away from home against Arsenal. Both Champions League clubs, of course, but how many of these results can Paul Heckingbottom afford before he faces the sack? I mean, it's just terrible defending. No one's aware of the ball in the slightest, apart from Tomiyasu, who beautifully finds the back of the net. Very similar to Nketiah's second goal in this game, but just surely Paul Heckingbottom is sitting there looking at this going, well, how can I keep managing with this side that are putting in performances like this?
I think the difficulty from the owner's director's point of view at Bramall Lane is that what they have to realise is that they haven't really given him a huge amount of new tools to work with. He's pretty much got his promoted squad to work with. That's something that the board have obviously wanted to keep that way. So if they were to get rid of him, potentially this would mean that a new manager would have to come in and try and make do with this kind of squad where they don't really know all the players, and it's going to be a difficulty, I think. So they'll have to consider it. I have no idea why we're getting the purple VAR screen now in terms of a replay. I can't see anything wrong with that goal, but I think the check is over and the goal has been given.
Yeah, thankfully. I mean, I don't really know what there was to look at there. It shouldn't have taken as long as it did. Nonetheless, we are back underway in the 98th minute of the potential 100 that will be played in this game, and Sheffield United, I think, will just be desperate for things to end in this game, as that away end is looking far more empty than it did at the start of play as the ball is sent long by Arsenal. Trossard picks it up, tries to get away from Vinny Souza, but the Brazilian just launches it long, looking towards Cameron Archer, but it's straight into the hands of David Raya, who gets his 4th touch of the second half as he balls it onto the right hand side for Takahiro Tomiyasu, the goal scorer of the 5th, and you'd assume final goal for Arsenal, but you never know with this Sheffield United squad whether there could be another one as the ball sent long looking for Reece Nelson, but it's dealt with well by Ben Osborne. It then is now Luke Thomas looking to bring it forward, goes square to John Fleck, then back to Jack Robinson, then back into John Fleck, who completely miscontrols the ball, and Arsenal have possession once again in the Sheffield United half, as the ball's played in looking for Eddie Nketiah, cleared away by Austin Trusty, then Oliver Norwood, but it's brought down once again by Arsenal. El Neni now on the ball. We're into what should be the final minute of additional time in this game. We're into the 99th of the 100 minutes that were set to be played when the 4th official held up his board for 10 minutes. Kivior now on the ball, who I think will be delighted, who's come into this side and he's kept a clean sheet.
He has kept a clean sheet, and he's been able to not just show a good defensive performance. It's not really been tested that much in defence, but he's been involved in a lot of the build-up for Arsenal, a lot of possession, a lot of passes completed by the young defender, and it's just a very good day at the office for Arsenal. Although Sheffield United haven't provided much of a test in terms of winning or losing the game, you still have to get the job done, and Arsenal have played some excellent football at times, scoring some excellent goals as well.
Yeah, ball sent over the top by Saliba looking for Reece Nelson, but it's brought down by Kai Havertz. Nelson tries to flick it around. Luke Thomas does well to keep a hold of the ball. No foul given by the referee. It's now Vieira looking into the middle of the park for Kai Havertz, and I thought he'd scored, but it's straight into the side netting by the German, and we have ticked over the 100 minutes, so that'll surely be the last chance for either of these sides. It's a nice turn from Reece Nelson. There was no foul on Luke Thomas. He just completely lost his balance. Zinchenko was the one actually on the ball who slotted it through to Kai Havertz, who just couldn't quite find the angle, and indeed that is the final touch of the game, as it finishes Arsenal 5, Sheffield United 0. A hat-trick from Eddie Nketiah, a penalty from Fabio Vieira, and a late goal from Takahiro Tomiyasu are what separated the two sides. Arsenal were dominant in the first half, didn't create too many chances, but the second half it was chance after chance, and they found themselves with 5 goals at the end of the game. It finishes Arsenal 5, Sheffield United 0.